Well, hello, DCO Nation. Welcome to Deadcom Outdoors Radio. This is the show where the tide set the tone and the bite tells the story. We're diving into everything saltwater inshore kayak fishing, from lures and locations to weather, water, and winning tactics. If it helps you hook up on more fish, we're talking about it right here. So grab your paddle, check your drag, and here we go. Well, hello, DCO Nation, and welcome to Deadcom Outdoors right here on the Outdoor Radio Network. My name is Chris, and just like every week, I would like to invite you guys to follow me on all of the social medias, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on Spotify, YouTube. If you guys are into the long form videos and checking out my fishing adventures that I've been going on, and if you are into saltwater inshore kayak fishing, this is the show for you. We touch on pretty much everything that happens to do with saltwater, from tides. I have captains on, and we talk about what's going on, the trends, what I'm seeing out on the water. So, this week, I want to really touch on a couple of tournaments that are coming up, and then I fished all weekend, and I want to kind of recap what I saw out on the water and kind of what I caught. So let's kind of do a little bit of a rundown here. So let's start out with there is a Low Country Kayak Anglers Redfish Series event number 2 that is going to be actually this Saturday, which is oh my gosh, I don't even know, the 18th, April 18th. So I am going to be fishing that tournament. And I think I'm going to talk about my topics a little bit out of order here. I was going to save this till last at the end of the show, but I am going to be fishing this tournament. And any local guys around really South Carolina, maybe Southern North Carolina, Virginia. This stop is going to be in Murrells Inlet, so kind of my backyard. I'm pretty excited for this one. Of course, this will probably be the tournament that I get skunked out on. You know how that is, man. You fish the waters all the time. You think you know them, and then you get out on a tournament and bam, you don't get anything. So I'm actually just going to go out. I'm going to have some fun. The weekend weather isn't supposed to be too bad. I have been kind of tracking the weather for really about the last 10 days. I went on to the Outdoor Radio Network mobile, and they have a weather app that gives you a 15-day forecast. So I have been tracking this for, like I said, at least the last 10 days. And the wind is supposed to be okay, 10 to 15 miles an hour. I'll take that. That's fine. Really, anything over 15, when you start touching 20 and 25 mile an hour winds, I just don't like to fish in those conditions. It blows around these kayaks. You can't hold your positions. So, but right now, it's actually shaping up to be a really nice day. So it's about 8 hours out on the water, and the tide is lining up where, let me see. So when lines are in right at 7 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be midway through the incoming tide. So we'll be fishing the rest of the incoming tide, high tide, and then about 4.5 hours of the outgoing tide. It's not my favorite tide to fish for redfish. I like the bottom of the tide when I fish for redfish because, as you guys know, as the tide drops out, the water gets skinny. These fish concentrate into these creeks. They pull off of the flats. They're a little bit easier to sight fish because they are just, like I said, they're so concentrated in these creeks that, you can find the fish. And when you find a school, usually that school is pretty tight because they really can't go anywhere because of, there's no water. So, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, it's going to be high tide, and we're going to be real close to the new moon. So again, probably not going to be the best conditions. So what I am thinking about doing is fishing flooded grass, getting up onto the flats and just seeing if I can catch some tailing fish, seeing something that's happy up in the grass. I am looking back. I've already got my rods rigged up right now. I've got a Prawn Star rigged up. I've got a 4-inch paddle tail on a 3/16 ounce Texas eye. I've got it rigged weedless. So as I'm throwing up into that grass, I can get deep into the grass, pull it out, not worrying about it getting hung up, and seeing if a nice red will chase one out. And then I also have a small 3-inch slim swim in pearl color on a 1/8 ounce trout eye. So I wanted a little bit smaller profile just in case they were targeting or zoning in on a little bit smaller bait. So I want to get into what I saw this weekend, which I saw a lot of small fry along the grass line. So that's why I've got that 3-inch slim swim tied on. Working away from the slim swim, I do have a top water tied on. So first thing in the morning, I think I'm going to throw around a top water. I like the Mirror Lure Top Pup. I've got it in this mullet color. I can't remember the exact name of the color, but it's dark black gray on the top. It's white on the bottom. It looks like a mullet. There's a ton of mullet in the creeks right now. So I went ahead and I tied this on, hoping that, you know what, first thing in the morning, you never know, I'm going to pitch right up into the grass. My top waters have single inline hooks. So if I'm throwing up into the grass, you are less likely to get hung on the grass if you're doing single inline hooks. If you're dragging treble hooks through, and I'm looking around right now, I don't have that one up here, but my other top pup I have, it's a red head. So it's got a red head and a white body that has treble hooks on it. If I would throw that up in the grass, I'm catching everything. I'm getting hung up. Those trebles just absolutely are relentless. You drag everything out. It's a nightmare. So this one has single inlines because I know I'm going to be fishing in the grass. So that's kind of my thought process and what I've got tied on right now. So so that's kind of my Redfish series. Stop number 2, Merle's Inlet. I'm going to be ready for that one. I am all signed up. I am ready to go. So the second tournament I want to talk about that's coming up is April 25th, and it is the Grand Strand Saltwater Anglers Flounder Tournament. And this is one of the biggest tournaments of the year. It almost kind of kicks off the year for, a lot of the summer tournaments. So you can get signed up for it right now. There is a captain's meeting that you have to go to. So let me back up just a little bit. There are 2 divisions this year. There's always been a boat division. This is the 23rd annual flounder tournament. There has always been a boat division. This year is the first year for a kayak division. So I was lucky enough to be asked to help out, put the rules together, and, be one of the judges as people are submitting fish on Fishing Chaos. The kayak tournament is going to be run through the Fishing Chaos app, and it's going to be a CPR event, so a catch, photo, release. And the boat tournament is a live release. So you catch your fish, you take them live, you go back to Crazy Sister Marina. South Carolina Department of Natural Resources is there, and they do all the weighing and all that kind of stuff. But for the kayak division, like I'm going to be focusing on, is a CPR event. And you guys who kayak fish, you know exactly what that is. Fishing Chaos. I will be one of the, judges to make sure that the length is correct and submit all of those fish. So, and I will be fishing the tournament. So I'm going to be one of the judges. I've got to take time out, stop fishing, look at your guys' fish, make sure everything is good and approve those. So, but on April 25th is the tournament. On April 24th, there is a captain's meeting, and it is going to be held at the Beaver Bar in Murrells Inlet. And if you're going to be in the kayak division, you have to come to the captain's meeting because there is a board check. We have to make sure that, the boards haven't been tampered with. And that is where you will get your registration card and the identifier. Okay. So again, you guys who fish these, you guys know about the identifiers. The identifier has to be on the picture when you submit your fish, and then get it uploaded into Fishing Chaos. So all of that is going to be done on April 24th at the Beaver Bar in Murrells Inlet. And then April 25th is the actual tournament. So go to Fishing Chaos. It's up right now. I just checked it. Again, I am in the tournament. I am ready for the tournament. I love flounder fishing. It's going to be a ton of fun. There's going to be a ton of people out there. Like I said, it is a very popular tournament. So guys, if you're around the area and you want to get into this tournament, I really encourage you to get signed up and go out and have some fun and try to win a little bit of money. So yeah, it's going to be great. Guys, it's looking like we're coming up to the end of the first segment, and I haven't even started talking the fishing from the past weekend. So guys, we're going to dive into what I saw out on the water last weekend down in Charleston and in Murrells Inlet. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Dead Calm Outdoors right here on the Outdoor Radio Network. Well, welcome back, DCO Nation. In that first section, we have been talking about the Low Country Kayak Anglers, the Redfish event number 2 that's going to be happening in Murrells Inlet this Saturday, April 18th. So that's going to be a great fun event. I talked about the Flounder Tournament on April 25th. And again, guys, I know this is being broadcast, across the country, really around the world. I mean, we are in, I can't even remember how many countries we're in right now. Australia, the Bahamas, we're all over the place. Canada, we're all over. So I know I'm talking about some local tournaments, but a lot of the concepts and the techniques that I talk about really can be applied anywhere that you guys fish inshore salt water. So don't let that discourage you or be like, hey, listen, he only talks about some local stuff. But this really does apply, and the techniques and tactics do apply wherever you guys are. So, guys, again, I'd like to invite everybody to follow me on the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. Search Dead Calm Outdoors. It's that easy. We can get connected. Tag me in your photos. I love seeing that stuff. Let's push it out to some people. Your DIYs, your catches, your kayak setups. I geek out on that kind of stuff. I love it. My wife looks at me sometimes and I'm like, oh man, look at this setup. Look at this trailer this guy's got. I don't know. She thinks I've lost my mind sometimes. But, when you're eating up with fishing and that's really all you think about on your time off, on your days off. I even, I told my wife the only time I get up early on the weekends is to go fishing. So like last weekend, I went down, I fished on Saturday. I went to Charleston. I went to the Wando River and I set my alarm and I got up at 4:00, and it is the only time that I will get up at 4:00, drive an hour and a half, put my kayak in, and go fishing on a day off of work. So there is no sleeping in. I am eating up with fishing. And I know I'm talking to a lot of you guys out there that do the exact same thing. it's hard to get up during the week to go to work, but when Saturday and Sunday rolls around and that 4 o'clock alarm goes off, you're ready to go. So I was ready to go. I drove down to Charleston, actually met uh, three other guys down there. And we did kind of a little impromptu, I don't know if we really want to call it a tournament, but we all threw some money into a pot and we had like a little slam competition. So it was the longest flounder trout redfish. So, it was a slam tournament. And so we're like, hey, let's make it a fun day. Let's throw a little money into the pot, and whoever gets the biggest slam is the winner. So it was great. We, just kind of cutting up and hacking on people and giving guys the needle. And that's kind of just how we roll with it. But, the day was actually, if you looked at it on paper, it was a perfect day. It was like upper 50 degrees in the morning. Water temperatures were mid to upper 60s where we were at the upper Wando River. Low tide was going to be at like 10:30, 11 o'clock, something like that. So we were fishing the outgoing tide to low tide and then a few hours of the incoming tide. Now, I had to be off the water at 1 o'clock. I had some things to do later on that afternoon. So, we fished about 6 hours, which, that was good with everybody. Our arms started hurting with all the casting we were doing. But so we started out and I was fishing just kind of the grass line of the river. I started throwing some top water, never really got any hits on it, never got any little swirls or blow ups. Fished it for about 45 minutes, went ahead and put that away. I got a small paddle tail. It was a 3-inch, let me see, a minnows, I think was in pearl color, if I remember correctly. And it had a 1/8 ounce Texas size. So it was rigged weedless. And there was this one area where it kind of opened up into this little, I don't want to call it like a back lake, but a small little lake area is about the best way I can describe it. It was about 1.5 feet of water. And I slid up in there and there was a school of reds up in there. And so I stayed way away. I kind of pulled myself up into the grass and just kind of sat there and watched them. I wanted to make sure I didn't spook them. And I saw them moving around. They were swirling on some stuff. So I pulled out that small little paddle tail and I started working like from the outside edge inside. So because I didn't want to throw right in the middle, I didn't want to spook this school, do anything like that. Threw that around a little bit. They were not interested at all. So I tried just kind of slow rolling it. I tried bouncing it. And so I went ahead and I put it away and I had the prawn star out. So I had that tied on and I threw that little shrimp pattern up thinking, well, okay, maybe they're keyed in on some shrimp. Threw that around, probably spent a good 15 minutes up in there, could not get them to eat anything. It was so frustrating. I was seeing them there. They were not interested at all. So I know you guys have had kind of the same situations. When the fish aren't cooperating, they're just not cooperating. So I moved on, kept moving down the bank, hitting grass lines, hitting some hard oyster shell bottoms and oyster banks, not catching anything there. I saw some fish swirls. Now, there were a lot of mullet, but those weren't mullet swirls. I know a lot of guys ask, well, how can you tell a difference between like a mullet and a redfish wake? Well, a mullet wake, one is a very tight V. It pushes away and it pushes away very, very quickly. Mullet change zip codes like jet planes, okay? And it pushes a V. When you spook a redfish, one, it's a big U. So the top of a redfish is almost like a submarine. You guys have heard it described that. And when it's pushing water, it makes a U pattern in the wake, and it'll push a pluff of mud if you're around a mud bottom. Mullet don't do that because their tails are very thin, but a redfish tail is almost like a broomstick. It's wide, it's fat, and when it makes that first kick with that tail, it will push a plume of mud. And so it's like, yep, that was a redfish, that's a mullet. And you start kind of getting keyed in once you know what you're looking for. So I'm working down the bank. I'm not really seeing a whole lot. I worked some new areas. I went up into this new creek that I've never been into before that had several docks. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to hit these docks and see if there is anything hanging around the pilings. I saw some shrimp moving. I threw a shrimp pattern. I threw a small paddle tail. Nothing, no takers whatsoever. So we're about at low tide at this point, and I'm skunked out. I've seen fish, couldn't get him to take anything. So I crossed back over the river, and on the other side of the Wando, the opposite side that I was fishing, it is lined with docks for about a mile. So I said, you know what? I'm going to pound docks the rest of the time, see what I can pick up. So I started working docks, working dock pilings. I'm throwing everything in the kitchen sink. Can't get anything. About a couple hours before, so about 11 o'clock. So the tide had just started to switch around. It started to come in. I was at the back of this one dock. I was throwing at this point a Z-Man thick trick. So it's like a 3.5 inch stick bait. I had it rigged weedless again because of where I was fishing. There was some grass, the piling, some oyster. So I wanted to be as, snag proof as possible. And I ended up catching my first flounder. It measured about 13 inches. Great. Skunk is out of the boat. He actually hit that pretty hard. He choked it pretty good. It was inside of his mouth. I didn't, skin hook him on the lip or anything like that. So, we're good to go there. And so I started pounding docks again and nothing. I mean, just could not get them to hit on anything. Again, seeing fish and just not getting them to commit. I don't know what was going on. Again, sometimes I think, hey, it's the fishermen, but sometimes the fish just aren't feeding. The other guys I was with, one gentleman only caught one trout. Another gentleman caught a 21-inch redfish. So he only had one fish. The gentleman that won it, Corey, I'm giving you a shout out, buddy. He got his slam. And the one thing about it is I don't think I know the sizes of his fish. It really didn't matter. He got a slam. So he was really the only one that kind of figured out the pattern, but there were three of us that couldn't figure out the pattern. So, it is what it is. You're going to have days like that. I actually went back. I kind of watched the video again, kind of recap my day. And, I don't know. When you go out on days like that, you're fishing with some buddies, you're having a small little tournament. It was a ton of fun. Yeah, obviously, I wish I would have caught some more fish, especially that one school. I was pretty heartbroken and deflated that school in the morning, I couldn't pick up a red. And it kind of worked on my mind a lot of the day as, you kind of keep flashing back saying, should I have done this? Should I have pulled this out? Should I have done, maybe a smaller Ned, a Ned shrimp or something? And, so you kind of always go back to those scenarios. But, it is what it is. And guys, man, this has just flown by again. Man, I get to talking fishing and I lose track of time. So, guys, I never even got to talk about Merle's Inlet where I did catch a flounder and a redfish. We'll recap that day maybe next week. But I am looking at getting a guest on next week. I'm not going to tell you who it is. You're going to have to tune in. But guys, I really do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Check me out on all the social medias. Search Dead Calm Outdoors. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And remember, conservation starts with you. Release a fish for someone else to enjoy. And you've been listening to Dead Calm Outdoors right here on the Outdoor Radio Network.